Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your host and guide along the way. Last episode, we talked more about geometry than you probably have since school. And maybe you didn't even talk about or think about geometry when you were in school. Maybe the teacher talked about it and you weren't listening. But I hope that last episode's look at the links and the beautiful parallels between a triangle and showmanship, as we laid it out there, and the 3 points of the showman and the audience, and how the line between them can see to sprout a third point, which is the show that comes between them, and that this third point immediately makes the line into a triangle, and that it is within this triangle which then gets a whole new area. It goes from being just a line with no extension to being an area that's measured in square centimeters instead of just length. It's measured in area instead of length. So I hope that as a sort of picture can serve as probably the deepest example so far of which is that we examined this particular thing in season 2 as well, and it is an example of the way that we view the world through the lens of showmanship. So we try to understand something of showmanship, or we try to understand something of the nature of triangles, and we learn a whole lot of interesting things there, both about geometry and about showmanship and how deeply they actually can connect. So as we see that, I believe that we're in, then I one way to view what Carl Jung calls the archetypal is not necessarily to see them as individual spirits or whatever, but as patterns, as particular patterns that occur at different levels of reality. And I do believe that in the area of interest, in the realm of shows, in the imaginal realm, as Henri Corbin calls it. It's kind of interesting when that I've been struggling with the name of Henri Corbin each time I say it, because I've read it so much, but realized that I don't actually know if I've brought it up in a conversation before until I have had this conversation with you. But anyway, he calls it the imaginal realm. And the emergence of that in this space is where we use our imagination, not fancy, as Coleridge called it, just recombining random things, but that we actually use our imagination to see these patterns that repeats themselves at different levels of reality, that we can see patterns that repeat themselves in showmanship and in triangles, and that each can then illuminate the other one, and that choosing to look in this way, it determines what we see, as we said, how we pay and what we pay attention to. The way we pay attention alters what it is that we see, and the process that we are going through in this season on showmanship and play is to see play and see showmanship ultimately as something much more serious than what it appears on the surface. And this seriousness is something we are going to talk about today. So that's enough of a recap of what we did last episode and where we are going today. So let's just take the trip that I have planned for us here now, today. So the theme that we're going to talk about today is connect and play. These words have been chosen because of a very particular reason, which I will get back to. It's actually not just a reason, it's a particular person who wrote the book. So we're going to get to talk about that later on. But I know that I ended the last episode by saying that I had nothing to add. Yet, as it turns out, I do have some more to say before we move into talking specifically about play and what that is. And because last episode we talked about and shaped a way to look so that we kind of discovered a whole new realm. We discovered the realm of a show, of what happens, that particular kind of way of relating, which happens between an audience and a showman, where anything can happen, where a magic show happens, where a ballet happens, and the symbolic and sacred space that this affords us. So we've discovered a new realm, but knowing of something's existence is merely the first step. Just imagine Anthony van Leeuwenhoek peering through his homemade microscope and discovering the microbial world, and then, without further inquiry, just moving on to other things, to whatever it is that he did back then. So if a new realm is discovered, which arguably the realm of the area of interest, or the imaginal realm, or the realm of shows, is not something that has just recently been discovered, but in the way of this podcast, we kind of discovered that fully last episode. And this new realm, it invites, or even then begs, some exploration. So once I had become convinced that looking at shows as something which happens in a somehow altered experiential state, I certainly wanted to know more about it. What more was there to say about this space? What were the attributes or nature of the space itself? Like, what kind of human activities happen in this space? Are there something that we can say about that? And even though I place a great stock and value upon showmanship and circus and performance, I had to reluctantly admit to myself that the reality and existence of such a state as the area of interest or imaginal realm, it couldn't have emerged 250 years ago with the rise of the circus. The area of interest must predate the formal structure of performance as we know it. Its roots certainly go into the early times of tribal, shamanistic, ritual performances and ceremonies, with their much more direct participation by the tribe and shaman than by an audience of a modern show. And this shamanistic, ancestral aspect to showmanship is something that I will explore in depth in a future season, since I do believe that shamanism might be better explored as the origin of the showman than of showmanship itself. And that's because I believe the roots of the state of human relation, the imaginal realm and, area of interest, it goes even deeper than shamanism. So it seems to me to be even more primal. Even though if I really have to sort of say where some of these ideas for play comes from, it comes from interacting with the idea of shamanism as the origin of the showman and of showmanship. But when I had entertained that idea, which is basically some of the main bits of writing that I did on my blog called The Illuminated Showman back a decade ago or so, that was what I was exploring. But then whilst I was writing that blog, I thought I needed to write something about play. But I soon discovered that the topic of play and what I wanted to say about it, based on the ideas that I had and the input that I got from reading about it, it just grew and grew and grew. And at that point, my blog posts were 1,000 words or 1,500 words or whatever at most. And the book that I have written, that I am reading from when I'm doing this is 100,000 words. It's more than 300 pages. So I turned out that wasn't suitable for that blog all those many years ago, but you're getting it now here. So I did kind of think that maybe this season that we are doing now, that would be about the shaman as a proto-showman, but I think that'll be perhaps the next season. So anyway, getting back to what we were talking about as this state of the area of interest, the way of connecting, that surely didn't originate as circus. So where did it originate? And both Carl Jung and Henri Corbin, thinks of the imaginal state in rather spiritual terms, and reality of spiritual states and beings and realities, and the kind of research that's necessary to say anything about those lies beyond what I can grasp and verify for myself. So I won't be looking for the origins in any world beyond this. I will look for the origins of this space, this sacred, this interrelational space. I will look for it in the betweenness of human beings. I will look for the origins of this space, this realm, in ways of relating, or in ways of relation. So the only way I could be said to go into the beyond is that I will venture beyond the bounds of our own species, to the ancestral beings that we carry in us, in the same sense that we spoke about last episode, that a triangle carries the line within itself as the line transforms into a triangle, both being 180 degrees. And I'll look at our evolutionary and sociological past for the origins of the kind of gentle, open, reaching out attention that leads to the joint relational attention, which again affords us the experience of the area of interest. And my question then is, what are the human relational origins of this exceptional state? And in trying to grasp any complex issue, it's important to formulate good questions. So let us bring back my earlier questions about what happens in this space. Can we say anything general about the nature of what happens in this space? And since the space comes into being through human relations, I believe the nature of the space's attributes are directly related to and springing from certain aspects of cooperative human activities. And we've already made a case for showmanship being the activity which affords access to one aspect of the area of interest. But the question here goes beyond the dynamic of showmanship as we think of it today. What kind of activities, what flavor of behaviors and traits can be expected to reliably be found in this dimension? Or asked in another way, what kind of activities and behaviors affords us access to this mode of interaction or realm of experience? And if there are specific traits which reliably affords access, I would presume these features would then be prominent in all the different aspects of this space, be it circus, literature, art in general, religion, or other interpersonal cultural domains. So, what traits are common to all of these things, religion and art and everything? So, I'm going to, trying to answer it, I will talk a little bit now about the nature of work. Because the question frequently asked after a show to me goes like this: is this what you do for a living? Is this your work? And this question, I think this might give us a clue. Because I believe one of the reasons this question so commonly emerges from watching entertaining artists like jugglers, street performers, magicians, acrobats, dancers, and showmen presenting themselves as rubbermen is that the activity itself does not seem congruent with a common view of what work is. When people see me doing what I do when I do my job, they don't see and recognize this as what they know work to be. Because work is supposed to be a serious affair, something which has to be done because it's one's job, not because it gives immediate satisfaction just to do it. Work is rarely something one does simply because one wants to. Most people work for other people, for companies with their own goals and agendas, which might or might not align completely with the goals and interests of the employees. Few workers go home and continue to work on the kind of work they do at work, simply for the sheer enjoyment of doing it. And all these aspects makes the fun and joyous nature of shows unlike work. Take, for instance, one of my family shows, which is so full of participatory screaming and laughter and genuine moments of wonder and beauty when children's faces on the stage lights up to the delight of the audience as they encounter some minor miracle and ridiculous skills. The organic nature of the performance makes it seem spontaneous and like I'm just playing myself through the kids' interjections and my own half-crazed ideas, all of which seems doomed to fail or turn out the way I want. Yet, by going with the flow, even the supposed mistakes elicits laughter. It's all too random, and I look like I'm having fun because I am. And this kind of giddy enthusiasm is what we see in kids when we are playing. My behavior is kind of childish, which tickles the kids to no end. But the adults are enjoying themselves too, doubly so, since they're having fun whilst also thriving from seeing the beloved children in their care enjoying themselves so much. It's a win-win situation of fun and games. It's like a party. And the nature of what I do is too playful to be registered as work. It looks like I'm playing, and play is not work. So when after the show an adult by chance meet me as I'm putting my gear back in the car, it often dawns on them that this is my job, which brings about this cognitive dissonance that we've sort of talked about. Their thinking process reaches a dead end, and it goes, it felt like the best kind of party, yet this is his job. No compute, syntax error, and out pops the question. Their error in cognition message. Is this what you do for a living? I think that's, that sort of describes a little bit a central feature, certainly of showmanship. We'll start there before we delve into religion and all those other things. But so this is where we now going to look a little bit at these features, which names this episode, Play and Connect. And this is a clown's perspective. For the kind of showman which arguably is the most playful, most childlike, is the clown. And the clown enters the stage and she is completely present in the moment. This is a feature of clowns. She has a bag of tricks, but long before she opens that bag, she just revels in the pleasure of being there, in the presence of the audience. Her attention to them is complete. Any little cough in the crowd, any father scolding a child is seized and included in the ever-morphing game. She is arrested in the sheer joy of sharing a moment, and the result is magnetic. As Angela de Castro says, charisma is the pleasure of being there, and the clown takes great pleasure at being there. Playfulness is a feature of the clown in particular, but also of showfolks, musicians, and performers in general. Whether in the all-pervasive, immediately present nature of the clown, or the playful manipulations of a juggler, the virtuosic trills of a flutist, or the playful sensuousness of a burlesque star. The very nature of the game of performing has a flavor of let's pretend over it. In theatre, playfulness is very present with its exotic locales and dramatic turns. It is asking, if not outright demanding, that you suspend your disbelief and agree to pretend what happens in the story on stage is real. In circus, there is not quite the same need for suspension of disbelief, but it is not less playful because of it. I've been aware of the pervasiveness of play in performance as a concept for a very long time, but it was prominently foregrounded for me after reading Nalle Laanela's wonderful book, The Clown Manifesto, which was published by Oberon Books in 2015. I'll post a link in the show notes. And Nalle also founded the Swedish branch of Clowns Without Borders, which is pretty cool. Awesome undertaking. In the book, he tells in wonderfully practical terms that after spending years of looking for irreducible fundamentals of his craft as a clown, he finally, through his work as a teacher of clown, managed to discover two essential features. And just before quoting how he says that, it's like this is so up my alley, to ask questions and to whittle it down until you get these nuggets. And in playing Connect, he has really done that, and it's been very influential on my thinking. So, a quote from Nalle's book: "The only two qualities that I have come to find are fundamental to the essence of clowning are connect and play. A clown's primary hunger is to get a response from the audience. You can look like a clown, but if you're not connecting and playing with the audience, it's not clowning. The flip side being that if you aren't doing something that's traditionally perceived as clowning, such as theater or ballet, but you are connecting with the audience and being playful, I would consider it clowning." End quote. To be playful, one needs to be present with, to be together with the audience, to acknowledge and really see them, and always keep them and their state of mind in mind. And this is as valid for the clown and her audience as it is for a showman and his, but it's also so for a child playing with her friends. When playing with others, one must be connected. As Nalle says about performance, one must keep many awarenesses. I like this term, awarenesses. You got to be tuned into everything going on, from props and skills to the audience's reactions and on and on. How is the timing? And you got to have all of these things in mind at the same time, many awarenesses. And when we play, we are constantly offering ideas and impulses up to others, and they accept some, modulate some, and reject others. And this is the nature of the ever-evolving game. And another reason maybe why I am so fascinated with Nalle's book, and I liked it so much, is that Nalle also has his own triangle, which he has slightly different from my triangle, but these slight differences lies in our emphasis on which elements of the performance process we highlight to form the triangle's 3 points. But that aside, what Nalle places inside his triangle, which we haven't actually spoken about here, but we spoke about in the episode a long time ago, and that is that fourth aspect of it, and that I place inside my triangle, and I place attention inside this triangle. But Nalle, probably not surprisingly, based on the name of this episode, he plays play and connect inside the triangle. So my triangle has attention in the middle, and my maxim is that what a showman ultimately does is curating the time and attention of his audience. And this statement is so open that it can be hard to grasp. Like when you're staring at a blank space with no limitations in time or scope, no task at hand or frames to work within, then the sheer vastness of possibilities and lack of limitations can make creation nigh on impossible. So Nalle's concepts of play and connect wonderfully complements and concretizes my notion of curation of time and attention. So it's playful with an eye on maximum connection with the audience. And these are parameters that one should aim for in the process of curating time and attention. when you curate time and attention, you have to be mindful of connecting with the audience. Is this what you're doing, landing? And once the kind of connection that you do seek is a playful connection. And this is a great those are great features to always seek or always aim for in your curation of time and attention. Because you could say that the way you make your choices for how to curate the time and attention is in a reverberative relationship with connection, whilst keeping whatever you're doing playful. So with play and connect, we have two answers. But maybe this is not the complete answer, but enough. It is enough to give us some preliminary things to work with here. Some answers to the questions of which behaviors reliably affords access to the area of interest, and simultaneously serves as a guide to the style of behavior, the mode of behavior that characterizes what we find in the area of interest. So when one stands up before the others, daring to stand still and just be together with them and take them in with all the shared awarenesses and be ready to play, once we have that just to stand still and be together with them in the moment, then we have a golden key, as Nalle calls it. And I think that's just great, because that golden key unlocks and affords us access to the imaginal realm. And further, I believe that the same two features, play and connect, can guide us towards how to behave within the area of interest. So it's perhaps worth noting that in the Clown Manifesto, Nalle deals with connection before he tackles play. Coincidence? I don't think so. I think that connection does precede the play. Although separating the two is rather abstract, since as I see it, they're both part of the living process of play. Like connection is baked into play and relationships are baked into it. But since we are looking at the concepts as separate, and we're inquiring into the history of something, if we were to place the two concepts linearly in time, we could say that connection is more ancient. And this is in part because there are many more ways than playful for organisms to pay attention to each other. An easy example is a wolf, like a wolf stalking a hare, and then the hare just becomes aware of the wolf's pursuit. Now there is a definite connection between the wolf and the hare, but that connection is not playful. The predator-prey relationship of all things involve a form of connection following completely different rules of engagement. Wolves and all non-human mammals, as well as bees, termites, and ants, all have complex webs of connections amongst individuals of the species. And there's some interesting research out there showing that connections between individuals goes as far back in life, in life's history, as to single-cell organisms. Through chemical communication, bacteria can coordinate themselves to mount defensive actions or mount attacks. In essence, the many single individuals can act like larger multicellular organisms. A little bit outside the scope of what we're talking about here, but if you're interested in this, Bonnie Bassler from Princeton University, she's got some great lectures on YouTube about this. So Google that if you're interested. And connections between organisms goes all the way back to the origins of life. Yet I believe that we could maybe go even further and say that connection goes all the way back to the origin of the universe. What we think of as inert, like atoms and molecules, they also connect. Certain connections, like hydrogen and oxygen, connecting gives us water, and the myriads of ways that carbon connects has given us everything from aardvarks to dishwashers and diamonds. And seen in this way, connections becomes one of the fundamental building blocks of existence. And play, on the other hand, is not just connection. It is a particular kind of connection, a certain kind of relationship. I don't think we, in any meaningful way, can say that atoms and molecules play. I don't know about the social insects like bees and ants. They're pretty incredible creatures, but I wouldn't put it past them or completely rule them out as players. Just while I'm having pointing other places, there's a brilliant introduction to the wonderful world of ants. I can highly recommend a book called Journey to the Ants by Bernd Holdobler and Edward O. Wilson. But how we would work out whether an ant was playing with another ant, I don't quite know. But if we were serious about finding out whether ants or any other species engage in play, we would need to know what play was. And if we don't have a good understanding of what play is, we'll probably not recognize it in its, altered manifestation as clown play. No, not clown play, as ant play. Clown play we will recognize, but maybe if we look in the right way, we might discover that there is actually a clown ant. Who knows? But this, the question that we have here now, needing to know what it is that play is pretty much what we sort of talked about when we talked about the whale evolution and the inner ear and the development of showmanship through time, where I have landed on the area of interest as as the show, the creation of this extra realm. That's the feature that we're looking for in the origin of it. So now we need to understand what play is. So when it comes to wolves or hares on their own, not locked in a predatory-prey relationship, we can certainly recognize that both wolves and hares play. When we see two wolf pups chasing and catching each other and rolling roughly, tumbling in obviously good-natured fights, we can immediately recognize it as play. It's uncontroversial to say that all mammals play, at least as juveniles. So everybody's doing it, yet what exactly is play? The question makes me think of when St. Augustine was asked about what time was, and his answer seems highly apt for our question about play. "What is time?" they asked Augustine, and he answered, "I know what it is, but when you ask, I don't." And when I first started thinking about what play actually was, this is exactly how I felt. I know, but when you ask, or when I want to explain it in some writing, I don't. I know it when I see it, but when I try to define it, I come up short. I think this is in part because we know play in a practical way. Play is a practical thing rather than an intellectual thing. So we know it rather than understand it, or well, anyway, we know the behavior because we have all participated in this kind of relationships as children. We've all played. We know the thrill of the game and the joy of play, even if we can't explain it. But that won't stop me from trying, though. I went against Aristotle's claim that it's impossible to learn how metaphors are made. I struggled to create one and to show you how you can do it. But having gone against Aristotle, I won't let Augustine hold me back either. So part of why play is so difficult to get one's head around is that it's a multifaceted activity, possibly even contradictory. Play is many things at the same time. Actually, when it comes down to it, it's not even a thing at all. It's a process. And the faithful listener will remember that we have spoken about this at length back in episode 8, which is called Where is My Art? That all human phenomena, like love, art, and play, are hard to pin down because they by nature are flowing. They are processes and not things. Another feature of play, which we already touched upon, is its seemingly frivolous nature. It's fun, silly, loud, and unpredictable. So in short, it's a suspect activity with questionable importance. Because if something is frivolous, something is fun, we just don't think it's particularly important. That's certainly suspicious. It's something that kids do, particularly when they aren't activated and steered by adults into proper, useful, and rational tasks. Kids succumb to daydreaming, play, and other useless activities if you don't interfere with them. Play is what kids do when you leave them idle, and idleness is something to be wary of. The old Protestant proverb of idleness is the devil's playground suggests that when hands or brains are left idle, mischief and deviousness will ensue. And with this somehow tenuous link, I hope to illustrate that from a certain point of view, play has been eyed with suspicion, at best as something useless, if not outright negative. Yet modern research and my own studies into it, however limited and spurious they might be, combined with my own anecdotal experience as a father of an outstandingly playful 10-year-old, which now is 11, it tells me that when and what emerges through our meeting with idleness and boredom, or simply to be left alone to pursue our own whims and inclinations, that what happens there, the things that happen, are some of the most innovative and creative, important and enjoyable human experiences one can have. This flowing state of intense engagement that we call play is only reached in full when the TV and the phone is turned off. There are ways to play with technology, but the kind of participatory play that uses the body, the mind, and the imagination in a manner that comes from deep within each child, unmediated by brilliant and entertaining programming, this is the kind of play that I will be focusing on. When screen time is over and my daughter gets restless and bored, she begins to itch for something to entertain her. She always pines for the easy option first, fast and fabulous colors and movement delivered through the iPad. But if I say no to this, soon enough she grabs some toys, and before long a black dragon is pulling a caravan full of toy mice on their way to a great holiday somewhere beyond the Duna mountain in the furthest reaches of the bedroom. Each mouse with its own name, own history and personality and playful connection to each other and to midnight, the black dragon. As we look into play, I hope to show that the free play of humans indeed might be where we find the origins of showmanship and perhaps even of all elements of human culture. It has been argued by people way more learned and studied than myself, like Johan Heutzinger, Robert Bella, Peter Gray, and Stuart Brown, to name but a few, but which happens to be main sources in that I've drawn on for this season. And they all share the opinion that play is a supremely important aspect of human behavior, and some of them goes further, saying that play might be the very characteristic which made our species what it is. That play made us human. By surveying and getting an outline understanding of what play is, we will be mapping it onto the understanding we have developed of showmanship. And perhaps then we'll see if we can imagine play as its origins and develop an extended and deep metaphor of showmanship as play. Now, this whole undertaking, this whole season, and the whole Way of the Showman podcast project is an artistic project. I don't know the origins of anything with any certainty, not even my impulse to pursue the answers to these questions, or even the origin of the questions themselves. But this writing process, the fact that after quite literally years of reading and thinking and note-taking, I'm now sitting down for hours every day, fleshing out and playfully connecting all these ideas into a coherent story. And this is a creative act. I'm not claiming that I have the answers for the true origins or the one true origin of showmanship. All I have is a story, and a story which I believe corresponds deeply with reality as I see it, at least. But the ever-flowing complexity of all complexities that we call reality can never be captured in one story, but stories are as close as we'll ever get. The Norse myths about the creation of the universe is a story, and the rhyme of the ancient mariner is a story, and Big Bang is a story, And the way you and me are connecting right now is me telling a story, my story, of the originating impulse of the craft, which is my life and my living. So next episode, we will then delve into what play is. All right, and after 5 episodes, we are ready to delve into the main topic of this season, the nature of play. So this is the big next metaphorical comparison, or the metaphor that we're going to explore, and it's exciting. So a few of you might have started to get the t-shirts that we sent out arriving in your mailboxes or wherever you get them now, and just reminding you that it would be totally awesome if you could post a picture, post it on social media, on Instagram, and tag The Way of the Showman. So this is my kind of attempt to get the podcast some more attention, so that some new people as wonderful as yourself will become regular listeners of this here Tales from the Way. So until next time, take care of yourself and those you love, and I hope to see you along the way.